Hey you, welcome back to my channel, All Things Notary by Michelle. Today I wanted to talk to you. I guess I'm going to do some loan prepping. I have some closings today, so I figure I'd get up this morning and do a video and kind of walk you through how I do my package prep. So, if you're ready, let's do it. All right. So, very first thing that I do when I receive a loan packet is I read it. I read the notary instructions. In this case, there are, this particular file says lender specific closing requirements, okay? Print one copy of the PDF loan package. In this case, they're saying print one copy because the borrower's copy is already in the PDF file. So if you print it and then print a second copy, you're wasting toner and you're wasting paper because it's already included in that first PDF, okay? So again, that's why it's important to read your instructions here, or the closing requirements. So this one says, do not alter the closing documents, contact title before making any alterations. Well, what kind of alterations could there be? Dates, signatures, somebody, you may have documents with all the wrong dates on them. Do they want you to put a line through those dates and write the new dates, or do they want you to get a new packet? So it's important to read these instructions here. ID requirements. Of course, unexpired driver's license. It has to have a photograph on it. Your passport must have a signature on it. As far as your documents, it says do not leave signed documents with the client. You can leave them the unsigned ones. And then in these, if you don't follow some of these title companies' instructions, they will reduce your closing fee. So they will not pay you or pay you less than what they promised to pay you if you don't follow their instructions. So that's one of the main things, that's the very first thing that I do, because that's going to tell me, the instructions are going to tell me how many copies I need to print, whether I need to print on legal, letter, or both. What else? And as far as printing is concerned, so after I read the instructions, that's the second thing that I want to do is just go ahead and print off my documents, right? I read the instructions. In this case, I know I need to print off one set of documents. So then it doesn't tell me if they have to be letter or if it has to be PDF, because I do not own a dual tray printer. For me, one of the things that I could do is just print everything on a legal size paper. So if it doesn't specifically say it in the closing instructions, then 9 times out of 10, the lender is going to be okay with you printing on legal paper. So one of the tools that I found very helpful, and I can put that down in the comments below after my video, is it's Notary Rotary. They have a PDF page sorter. So like for an example, if you could see, it says a PDF page sorter. You choose the file and you upload there. So let's see here. Let's choose a file. Right, so I have some stuff in here. So I'm just going to choose this as one of my documents for my my insurance. All right, and so it says process. So once you upload it, you process it. So this is telling me that there are 2 pages. If you can see that. There are 2 pages right here, and they're both letter size. There are no legal size documents in here. And then if I wanted to, I could click on there and then it'll bring up the documents, okay? It'll bring it up. Sorry about that. Alrighty. And then you can print them if you don't have a dual tray printer. For me, 9 times out of 10, I am printing all legal size paper. Out of all the signings that I've done, not one person has complained about receiving all legal size paper. So that's another thing that you want to do. So you print your paperwork with the documents. And so in this case, I've already pre-printed the paperwork or whatever. So I have keep my closing instructions or requirements handy, because sometimes there are certain papers on here that they want to make sure that you do get signatures on that you may not be familiar with, right? So I keep that handy just in case I need to refer to it. So I started going through, I get my documents ready. One thing I want to show you is I do have my my Post-it notes, or my what I call them, my signature tabs. I used to use them when I first started doing loan signings, because it would just help me a little bit to know where to keep me from, I would say, missing signatures. Because when you're new, you have that anxiety, right? So you're nervous about getting the signatures, getting them all, just doing, you want to do it right, and so you're nervous, but then you're also worried about the buyer, right? You want to know, do they know that you're new? Do they know this is your first time? And you don't want them to know that. So you don't want to spend all day in their home, but you want to make sure that you get these documents signed. So I would prefer to spend an extra, some extra time with the client or the buyer, and say, hey, even if you have to say, hey, I just want to double check my documents, make sure I haven't missed any signatures, because I still say that today. Hey, let me just double check these, make sure I haven't missed a signature. Much as I like you guys, I don't want to come back, and I'm sure you got better things to do than sit here and watch me go through documents. So just give me a few minutes and I'll be out of your hair, and every time the customer's like, take your time. Yeah, we definitely, want to make sure. So we've been, because it's been a tedious process for them, for most people with this, and they just want to get it done right, and get it over with. So you asking for a few minutes to double check your docs when you're done is definitely going to be okay. So I would just suggest, if you're new, take your time, but don't take, I'm not saying, closing normally is, I would say, an hour when you're new. Don't take 2 hours to close. Go in knowing what the documents are, whatever. But, you definitely want to respect the time, but you want to do a good job, and you want to make sure you get all the signatures the first time, because they're not going to pay you to go back. So that's another closing that you can be doing, so that's ink and toner or, whatever. So nonetheless, I'm going through my documents here. Now, a lot of times, they'll say, hey, send these back in the same order that you received them. But for me, no matter what documents I'm doing and what order, I always pull out the Patriot Act form, and I always put it on top, because when I go to a customer's home or client's home, that's the first thing that I want to do is, hi, may I see your ID, please? I want to make sure that it's valid. I want to get this Patriot Act form completed, because there's nothing worse than leaving this in the form in the stack that it's in, and then when you get to it 20 minutes later, you find out that the customer doesn't even have a valid ID. So you just wasted 20 minutes of your time, and then you got to come back. So you get your trip fee and your print fee, but it's not worth it. Pull this out first, get the ID when you first walk in, fill this form out. This one requires 2. I've seen most of them just require 1 form of ID, but this one requires 2 forms of ID. So in this case, I will notify the customer or the borrower when I am on, I always do, hey, it's Michelle. I just want to confirm our appointment tomorrow. I'll be there. Make sure you have 2 forms of ID. One of the most important things is looking at that closing disclosure. I have learned this by experience, right? You want to look at that closing disclosure, and you want to see if the borrower has to have a cash to close. That's very important, because if it's anything over $500, they're going to need a cashier's check. Anything I think over $1,000, a certain amount, they have to wire it, right? So nothing like getting all these documents printed, driving 40 minutes to somebody's home just to find out that they don't even have the cash to close. Let alone they didn't even know they had cash. They were required to pay anything because their last closing disclosure that they got read something totally different than the one that you're going to their home with today. That does not happen all the time, but you will find that it will happen. So in prepping my docs, I look for the closing disclosure. I look for the cash to close. If the borrower is required to pay cash to close, I send them a message. Hey, Mr. Such and Such, just wanted to make sure you had your check, your cashier's check, or that you were wiring the amount, the $2,532.15. You know, you're going to have that cashier's check, or you're going to have that wired, because you want to know that ahead of time. Again, sometimes their last conversation, they didn't owe any money, or it was one figure and now it's something else. So you definitely don't want to surprise them at their home. You want to let them know prior to you getting there that there's money that are actually due. So I go through every single page of my my documents, and there's supplemental closing instructions. It says, please email a copy of the signed settlement statement once the closing has been completed. All right, so even though they said they weren't scan backs, they want these sent. No problem. No problem to do that, especially with the mail and everything being behind right now. I think it's just a good thing, good practice to do scan backs on all of your loans, even though they may not require them. But it looks good if the mail runs late and then you have that backup copy that you could send them, or you have already sent them. Uniform residential application. On this loan here, there are 2 people, so they would sign the top. A lot of time people miss that. Or if there's only one person, they would have them sign the top line. Well, that's not required on this uniform application. One thing I did notice on this one while prepping my docs, it's very important because a lot of times you won't see this on this uniform residential loan application here in Tennessee, where I am. There are signature lines at the bottom of each one of these pages, and normally it's just like one line and then both would sign that one line, but on here there's 2 lines for each person to actually to sign. Another form, the demographic information addendum, a lot of times in the beginning, I didn't even have people sign this form because I didn't even realize that it needed to be signed. So please make sure on that demographic information form that you do that they sign the bottom of that form. So I just go through and just see what needs to be if there's initials at the bottom. And then sometimes that's when these come in handy, because even though I don't use the little signature tab things, for instance, I don't have a lot of documents where the initials are at the bottom of the page. So I may just, and actually, yeah, let me do that. I'm going to stick a sticky note, at the bottom where it says borrower, so that I will remember. I am not beyond messing up, honey, let me tell you. So that I will remember that initials need to be on that particular page. So again, I just go through all of the pages. For this one, I saw where they wanted them to sign in black ink. So I'm so used to grabbing this blue pen. I love blue pens for this. But it said black pen. So a lot of times I will go ahead and write my title on the documents. My commission expiration date, I'll go ahead and get that on the document. That way it'll just save some time. It's not like I'm doing extra work because I'm going through the documents, each page of the document, just to make sure that the information, make sure really what I'm looking for when I go through the documents are documents that I'm not familiar with. So I want to make sure that I'm familiar with all these documents because I have to go over these documents with them. And I don't want to look crazy in front of them like, I don't know what this document is, but let's just go ahead and sign it because if you don't, they're going to send me back and you're going to have to sign it anyway. So, you want to look very confident when you're in your closings. All right. And a lot of times, if you're new, you'll notice that there will be some forms in here that will be duplicates. I would just say, hey, here's another duplicate. Sometimes maybe some are filed at different locations, but nonetheless, it's required. There are 2 signers on here, so for sure, I'm definitely going to have, duplicate pages because there are 2 signers here. I've seen 2 different counties already. I've seen, I've seen 2 different counties listed here. So in this case, when it's confirmed which county it is, I will draw a line through the incorrect county, write the correct county, and then put my initials that I made that change. That happens a lot, that you'll see that the county is not accurate on some of these documents. And that is something that you do have an option to correct. I don't think that that's something that you'll have to contact the lender for. They're just going to tell you, put a line through it and bring it on. Now, if it's dates, Social Security numbers, stuff like that, you want to definitely talk to the lender and say, hey, Social Security's wrong, the address is wrong, like you want to go through that and just to make sure, because nothing like having to go back out. And then, especially when it's something that you did and the client is inconvenienced, and then they're looking at you like you messed up, and you did, so there's nothing you could say about it, right? So, nonetheless. All right, so I'm going through all of these. I don't see any forms that's different than what I've ever seen before. This is actually a home equity line of credit. So I'm going to be meeting them at the credit union today to get these papers signed. And one thing about this particular signing today is that there was actually 2 different size papers. So normally I would just print everything on legal size papers, but I did use that PDF tool in Notary Rotary today to see how many letter and legal papers were required. Because I'm doing it at the credit union, I want to make sure that I have the documents printed as they actually sent them over to me. And thank God I had just enough letter paper to get this done. So, all right. So, so the settlement statement and the right to cancels are the only ones that were actually in legal size paper, and all the rest were actually in letter size paper. Some people, I mean, they love to print letter because, of course, legal paper is so expensive. So the when they have an opportunity to print in letter, it's great. For me, I ran out. I don't have any letter paper now that I've printed these pages out. Again, if I had a dual tray printer, I wouldn't have to use that page separator, but it's a great tool And I don't have a dual tray printer because I could not find one. There was not one available for sale when I purchased mine. So I just went ahead and got my brother 2750. What is this? MFC 2750 DW. It has on the top of it, it has a scanner so you can actually scan your docs through. I love it. I've heard somebody say that they didn't really care for it, that it was slow. Maybe they have a defect, maybe it's something going on with theirs, but mine's not really slow, and I haven't had any issues with it, and I actually love it. So what else was I going to tell you? And then in reading my closing instructions, one of the things that I do, especially if I have several closings in one day, I'm going to wrap this video up. This is the last thing I'm going to tell you what I do. So I have these sticky notes here. And then because, like I said, I may have several throughout the day, I want to make sure that I'm grabbing the right package to take to the right one. So I would just say, I just put Michelle, scan backs. If it's required, I'll put, you know, scan backs on here. I'll put the location, so the city. I will put the city on here, the time. So I will put the person's name, if they have scan backs, the city where this closing was going to take place, and what time. And then I just stick that, you know, I'll take my FedEx packet and I'll just stick it, you know, right on top of the packet. And so that way I know, hey, this is the what's the name's closing. I don't have to do scan backs, or I do have to do scan backs. It's in Murfreesboro, you know, Tennessee at 4 p.m. You know, so for me, I can just pick that packet up and keep it moving. And then also it reminds me, oh, do I have to do scan backs for this one or do I not? So it's really a good reminder. So for right now, that's pretty much how I do, you know, I print off and how I prep my documents. Just again, to follow up, print off those closing instructions, read those closing instructions if you have to. I have a highlighter. I will highlight stuff just to make sure that I don't forget. Take those closing instructions with you if you know that you may forget. Take those closing instructions with you so that you'll have them by your side when you're actually doing these closings, just so you won't forget anything. Double check your work. So what did I say? I said read your instructions. Make sure you print on the right size paper that they request, if they have, you know, a requirement. If not, legal size is going to be fine. Double check your work. Double check your work. Okay? Please double check your work. Double check your work. If you want to keep working in this industry, double check your work and make sure that you have not forgotten any signatures, because the worst thing is to go back out and have to have it done all over again. So, all right. I guess that's it for now. I get my packet. If it's FedEx, I put it in the FedEx. If it's UPS, if I have UPS things, I'll go ahead and put them in there. Otherwise, I'll use a post office thing and I'm ready to go. All right, so until next time, I will see you guys later. Again, if you are new to my channel, subscribe, like this video, share it if you find it helpful. Leave comments below. Let me know if there's another video that you'd like to watch, or if you have a suggestion on how to improve the process that you see me go through. I am happy to listen here and, you know, take some feedback. So until next time, guys, have a good day.